afternoon from Los Angeles, California. I'm Dr. Ryan Alba. What is happening with the American economy right now? Depending on where you're looking or what you're reading, you might not have a very clear picture. And that partly is because, well, things really aren't that clear right now. Last week, the Bureau of Economic Analysis released new figures that showed our economy, that's our GDP, shrunk for a second straight quarter. And that's gotten some economists worried that we might be heading into a recession if we are not already in one. But recessions are complicated, and normally you might see high inflation leading people to spend less, stock market falling, which leads to businesses cutting back, layoffs that lead to higher unemployment rates, and there you have it, a big shrink in economy. At the moment though, unemployment is actually very low at 3.6%. The US unemployment rate is actually at a 50-year low. Now, that's not normally what you see in a recession, but unemployment is just, again, one part of the economic puzzle. Inflation, which has been at a 40-year high for months, is a big part of it too. And in the last 2 years, it has become a global problem for two big reasons. Quite frankly, on one hand, you have COVID that continues to take its toll on supply chains. Think of things like the sudden shortages of certain foods and products, and on top of that, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, coupled with Western imposed sanctions on Russia. Both have increased the cost of energy and the price of very important commodities needed around the world. So this week, the Fed's increased interest rates by 0.75 of a percentage point for a second time to try to help bring down inflation, raising its benchmark rate up to 2.5%. It is the highest increase in nearly 3 decades. But it's important here to recognize that inflation works in patterns as well. CNBC's Ron Insana wrote last month, and I quote, "Inflation spikes that follow massive disruptive events like the World War I or the Spanish flu or the World War II last a couple of years before plunging again once supply and demand comes back into balance." That's why the pandemic and the war in Ukraine are important to keep in mind as we try to understand this and make sense of it. Some economists are projecting that inflation will fall in next year by 2.3%. In fact, the Wall Street Journal cited studies showing that even though inflation has peaked in June, it will actually drop by 2.3% in just a year. But they also say it might need a recession to get us there if inflation rates don't drop on their own to that level. And despite all of this, President Biden reassured Americans on Thursday that a recession isn't on the horizon.
Both Chairman Powell and many of the significant banking personnel and economists say we're not in a recession. We have a record job market of record unemployment of 3.6% today. Businesses are investing in America at record rates, Foreign business like SK and others are investing in America. Passing the CHIPS bill is going to put another $72 billion for incentives and tax credits to expand semiconductor production. And the Inflation Reduction Act will add another $370 billion in clean energy tax credits. That doesn't sound like a recession to me. Thank you very much.
For videos like this and to support my work, click the subscribe button here on the screen. You may also follow me on Medium, where I write about the most important topics daily, or check out my podcast, Dr. Ryan Alba Show, on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast.